This is the Cardiff Business School podcast, where we explore the power of public value in everything that we do. My name is Peter Wells, and I am the Pro Dean of Public Value here in Cardiff Business School. Today, my guest is Amy Boote. She is a PhD researcher with interest in fashion and sustainability. Amy, welcome.
Thank you.
You know, when I do these podcasts, I usually try to do a little bit of research before I start, just so I get a good overview of people. So I put together some notes. Your notes are the biggest I have ever had. And you're a PhD student. So I think this needs some explanation.
Oh my gosh.
You have an amazingly impactful presence already. It seems to be a clear part of your whole approach to life and your approach to your work and your research. And I wondered, where does that come from? Where does that urge to communicate come from?
That's a really good question. Thanks for the introduction. I mean, I guess it kind of comes from a place where I've worked in the fashion industry and kind of seen everything that was wrong with the industry, working as a buyer and merchandiser for a very well-respected brand and seeing that they kind of didn't treat their garment workers as they should and feeling that I was kind of in a place of powerlessness and there was nothing I could do to change anything. And I kind of felt that I needed to have a voice, and that was kind of where my interest for research came from, to put something into action and actually see if I could kind of make a difference to the industry. And yeah, I feel like that's where my motivation definitely stems from. And I feel like that kind of carries through a lot of my work and kind of just me as a person.
Yeah, that combination is interesting, because obviously the PhD research itself is a challenge. It's not a straightforward task, but that willingness to write blogs and to engage with others that are involved in this space, I think that takes a certain amount of courage, if I'm honest, and perhaps a willingness to be innovative in how you communicate. And I wonder how far that desire to reach different types of audiences underpins your whole kind of research approach.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I started like the blog that you've mentioned, and I then started an Instagram page as well, just to kind of break down the complexities of research. Like, it can be quite a daunting subject, and a lot of people see it and think that it's not really an area they can engage with, even if it's something to do with the industry. So yeah, I kind of wanted to break down the barriers there and put something out for people, like everyday people who could pick up research. Like my parents could read it and they'd understand what I was talking about, and they're not academics.
This is a key challenge. That's right. I remember trying to explain my PhD to my mother, and that didn't go too well.
I think it's finally sinking in now with them.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely been an area that I kind of wanted to put forward, and I think engaging with industry is kind of something else that I've been trying to do with the work, and I think that's one way to do it.
But one thing you have done as a consequence is that you've made your personal position on these issues really clear. And is there an element of risk in that when it comes to researching this industry?
I think so. I definitely think a lot of the brands that I used to work with probably don't want to work with me now that I'm in this researching kind of role. I think it's very easy for brands to just turn around and say no, and they don't want a critic's voice. But yeah, I don't want to be someone who kind of is pushed to the background and it isn't a critic of the industry. Like, we need people like that. And yeah, I think it's kind of an area of my research that is important, and I think it's a voice that I need to put across, otherwise nothing's going to change.
Where did that drive for change come from in you? You've been an undergraduate, you've been an MSc student, you're now in a PhD program. Somewhere in this journey comes this real drive to change the world around you. Is that something from your background, from your studies? Where does this come from?
I think in general, I'm quite a motivated person.
Okay.
I think I don't like taking no for an answer. So it definitely comes from that. But I think being at the business school and kind of seeing how business is kind of put to you as this thing for personal gain, and you were only going to do well if you then went and got a job at Deloitte or at KPMG and you were one of these big companies. And I feel like I never really resonated with that, even though I was doing a business course and a business MSc. I feel like I was like, this just doesn't sit with me. And I kind of wanted to see something change. I just didn't know what until I found a PhD.
Interesting. Because also the transition that you're right in the middle of now. On the one hand, you do an MSc and it's essentially a talk course.
Yeah.
And then you come into the world of research. How different has that been for you?
So different.
Okay.
It's so different. It's completely up to you. And I think I've really enjoyed that part of it. But you have to be really motivated to be able to, plan your day to day and kind of just go with your gut instinct.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that I wasn't very good at when I first started the PhD. It was, here's 3 options and we could go with any of them. And my supervisory team were like, well, you need to pick one. I was like, but what if I pick the wrong one?
Okay.
And they were like, you just need to pick it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I just need to just completely firm that option and just go with what my heart's telling me.
But this is interesting, because here we are in this public value business school, and your supervisors, perhaps in another school, would be saying that one.
Mm.
But they didn't.
No.
So that, on the one hand, that's liberating, gives you the choice. On the other hand, it's, oh no, I've got to make a choice and I don't know the parameters.
Yeah, because you've kind of been given these parameters for the whole of your MSc and your undergrad, and you've been given a A to B to C list of things to do. And suddenly you're on your own.
Yeah.
And you just have to kind of take the bull by the horns and go for it. And it's something you can't really do when you're working in the industry either. You're just told what to do, what targets to deliver on, what KPIs to meet.
You have been involved in trying to at least get some of those organisations to embrace sustainability, as I understand it. So one of the businesses you worked in,
yes,
you were heavily involved in that. Can you explain a little bit about that?
So I constructed their sustainability policy for them.
There we go.
From start to finish.
Quick one-liner.
They had nothing.
Well, how did they have nothing in this day and age?
They were doing certain things and certain actions. There was some little glimpses of green policies. None of it was on their website. They weren't really shouting about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, this needs to be put into action. So I approached the CEOs and said, I want to do this. This is my background. Will you be willing to take me up on that?
Okay.
And they said yes. So I worked with a consultant and we worked on that project and it was great. And it all looks really glossy. You look on the website, they've got their water targets, their carbon targets, their material compositions, their traceability of the supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. In practice, they were like, we don't really actually want to do it. And that was when I left.
Right. I guess that's not an entirely unusual problem.
No.
But in terms of your making a difference in the world, then you've clearly decided that being actually inside the corporate element of the world is not the answer for you. Where are the benefits from being an academic as far as you see them?
That's really interesting. So I feel like I really wanted to be a part of the industry. My mum was a buyer. My sister works in fashion. I really wanted to kind of be in that circle. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't do anything.
You couldn't reconcile.
No. So moving to research, I was like, it wasn't something I actually had planned. Mm-hmm. At the time I was doing the sustainability policy for this brand, Mariam Lotfi asked if I wanted to come and do a PhD. So it just coincided and it was right time, right place. So I said yes. Never thought I would.
Interesting, isn't it? Because Mariam, of course, has previously been a guest on this podcast series, as has Hakan.
Yes.
Who is another of your supervisors. And here we have an interesting kind of continuity in that story. If I'm around in 10 years' time, I can talk to your next PhD student. But I think a lot of people do find academia frustrating in the sense that you're one step removed from the action.
Yes.
So what can you do with your research that then has leverage into that world?
So the research at the moment, I'm currently working with a couple of high street brands, interviewing them and speaking to them to get their perspective on climate resilience in the supply chain and looking at how they could maybe incorporate garment worker voice into their climate resilience plans, which are kind of focused on, I guess, carbon. They're focused on techno managerial perspectives. How can we optimize efficiency in production to better combat climate change? They kind of miss out the garment worker point of view.
Right.
So I've been working with brands on that side, but then the research itself is based in Cambodia. So I'm working with a couple of NGOs and organisations out there, such as Remake, Industrial, the Asia Floor Wage Alliance. So I feel like I'm kind of reaching out to industry because I feel like it's going to benefit them. Mm-hmm. One of the things I really started before the project was I want it to have relevance to industry. There's no point it being heavily theoretical, because for me, I wouldn't feel like I'm making an impact if I don't engage in these conversations.
And then you have an interesting problem because on the one hand, I can imagine researching in Cambodia, a bit of a challenge, one way and another. But equally, when it comes down to the academic side, where do you publish? What discipline are you working in? What frameworks are you using?
We've been trying to get something published this year and it's just not really working. But I guess that's just the trials and tribulations of academia. So that's fine. But we're kind of focusing everything on the risk and resilience domain, supply chain discourse, and going in that direction. And seeing if we can build a better climate resilience framework that will work for brands. And it will also work, I guess, theoretically, because we're applying a theory and we're applying ecofeminism theory.
Yeah, I saw that and I thought, okay, that's interesting. How does that work?
So it's a really old theory.
Quite a well-established approach.
Well-established, but it hasn't been used in supply chain discourse before. So it basically looks at how women and nature are kind of commoditized and marketized for, I guess, supply chain purposes. So you have an end product, but to get to that end product, you'd have had to, I guess, market women's labour and natural resources to get to that point. And it problematizes that and it looks at ways we could change that. And one of the ways it looks at doing that is by putting a focus on voices and social dialogue and integrated knowledge. And that is kind of where the research comes in. And we're going to be looking at garment worker voice and see if that can improve strategies.
So that's going to be quite... be a rich sort of source of data in the end, but an awful lot of kind of qualitative information to sort through and difficult to present to the world.
I think so.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, we're in the planning phase at the moment. Right. So talking with organisations to see which garment workers we can access and how we can access them.
Okay. Let me turn this around a little bit. I'm the proud parent of a young daughter, amongst others, 13 years old. So just at that age where she's kind of becoming more aware of herself, clothing, presentation, and so on. Is there advice for her that you can give about how to navigate that landscape with sustainability in her mind? Because she's very attuned to those kind of issues, but she sees also the pressures to be, wearing the same sorts of things, et cetera.
Yeah. I feel like everyone has those pressures. I mean, you just
even
open
I
your
do,
phone.
Not that you could tell.
But you'd open your phone, you go down Instagram and it's the latest micro trend or this is what you need to be wearing. And I guess it was interesting, Hakan and I were having a discussion about this the other day. And the only thing you can do is probably love your clothes and put value in those clothes. I always approach it in the way that if I ever buy new, I always try to buy secondhand. Okay. Even if something's in store, you can probably find it on a secondhand resale site. So that's the way I would go. But then if I have to buy new, or if I feel like I have to buy new, I'll look at the credibility of the company before I do it. Where was it made? Was the garment worker paid enough? And if I feel guilty about buying it, then I won't buy it.
Okay. Well,
that's the way.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it does put a lot of responsibility on the consumer to try to make those choices.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite difficult.
Yeah.
If you think, okay, your world is clothing, but there's phones, there's shoes,
oh
there's,
my gosh.
The list is almost endless. How much knowledge can we actually have of all of those things in order to make an informed choice? But I think that idea of kind of loving what you have is perhaps the key, because then it reduces that kind of quest to find new, to find more, to find other. So I will go back and have that discussion with Julia and see what she has to say. You've brought me in something.
I have, yes.
It's
a leather belt.
A leather belt.
A leather belt.
With studs.
With studs.
Leather belt with studs. Lovely. Red.
Red. It's from Morocco. We went there last year and we were in the clothing markets and came across this seller, this man, selling his belts, making his belts in the street, personalising them. So we went over and chatted to him. I knew I wanted one anyway. So we went over and we were chatting. Yeah, went over and we were chatting to him. And as he was making it to fit me, he was saying that he used to be a supplier for River Island and New Look, which is
surprising.
I don't know if you've ever been to Marrakesh and been in the souks. They are just insane. There's hundreds and hundreds of sellers. So, the fact that we kind of went over to his stall, started talking to him was just beyond belief. And he was saying that him and his brother had both supplied these brands and they no longer could because the cost prices they were asking them for the brands were just so not viable. They couldn't live off them. So they completely cancelled all of their contracts with any brand that they'd had. And it was just I think you look at brands and you think they make them all in China and all in the global south. And I kind of couldn't believe that this man at this stall was, or previously had been, supplying a major brand. His stall was probably the size of this booth.
Yeah.
And
cozy, in other words.
and his belts are probably in a river island in Cardiff. And
so strange.
So bizarre. And the fact that they weren't willing to pay him enough for something that cost me probably £10.
Yeah.
And they're probably selling it for £30. Then they weren't willing to pay him £1 for a belt. It was just,
It's interesting because years ago I was in University of Michigan, and the students actually had tried to do a study on the branded clothing that you can get from the university, from the sports shop and everything. And one of the key problems that they discovered is that the churn, the supply chain changed by 50% every year.
Wow.
They were just relocating and resourcing and resupplying. And so this sort of, underneath it is this kind of story.
Yeah.
Somebody said, I can't do this anymore. So then they find somebody else. And immensely destructive.
Oh, yeah. But then it's, I guess, the whole other flip side of it is if these brands aren't supplying from these suppliers in the first place, then where do they go for work? And that's what a lot of people say to me. It's like, well, the work seems quite critical. You're doing, the brands give these garment workers jobs. And it's like, yeah, but if the jobs aren't empowering them in the first place and they're not being paid enough, almost what's the point?
Yeah, where's the benefit? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very mysterious world. So what do you think is next for you, Amy?
Oh my gosh. I got asked this the other day and had no idea about the
Fair
answer.
enough. I often wonder about myself, but...
But no, I've still got another 2 years left
of
the PhD. And I've been chatting to a couple of people at the UN and seeing maybe if that's a way I go.
Okay.
I don't think, at the moment, I don't think I'd stay in academia.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I'd go in the first place. And it's been incredibly
considering
interesting.
How long you've managed to stay here.
So I think maybe going back into industry would be really interesting.
Okay.
But definitely not on the brand side, maybe more on like the policy and the larger organisation side of things.
It does seem to be a more systemic issue in the sense that we have sort of massive overconsumption of clothing, there's massive throwaway of clothing. You see the proliferation of kind of charity shops selling clothing, online selling clothing and so on. And so at some level, there just seems to be overproduction and overconsumption, which is even not reducible to a single firm. And I wondered whether understanding that at a very kind of macro structural level would relate to the kind of work that you do, which is very much you're going to talk to some garment workers on the shop floor, and there's a big gap between those two. So entities like the UN deal with those macro issues, and you come with this micro knowledge. How do you bridge?
Well, I think it's interesting, going back to like the theoretical lens, ecofeminism, it kind of problematizes capitalism and it problematizes patriarchy and links a lot of the issues that people are facing at this micro level back to the systems that we have. And I think that's kind of, I have that knowledge in that area. It's not big at the moment, but it'll go. And I think I'm already kind of engaging with a lot of these organisations with my work. So I'm hoping that's something I can carry on for the next couple of years. And hopefully by the end of the PhD, there'll be something waiting.
One last question, absolutely off the track. A good walk ruined.
Golf.
I don't understand how this fits with the rest of the story, or if it fits, but you're a very proficient golfer, I believe. How does that fit in your story?
It didn't used to fit when I used to work a proper 9 till 5, but doing the PhD, I play golf like 3 times a week now.
Yeah, right.
I just start earlier, finish earlier, and go and play at the golf club. Is
it a release? Is it just fun?
It's fun. It's definitely a good walk ruin sometimes. But yeah, for me, it's always, I've played golf since I was about 8.
Oh, okay.
So I've always played golf, and I play for the county where I come from, Oxfordshire, and it's just something I couldn't see myself stopping. And it's something that is completely different from what everyone else I know does. And it's a way to just get outside. And
I mean, I have seen it portrayed as a triumph of Scottish imperialism. And it is a famously patriarchal sport.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe the Augusta still doesn't have a tournament for women, for example.
No, they had, in the last 2 years, they now have a women's amateur competition.
Ah, do they?
but not professional. Yeah.
Well, you can always turn your campaigning instincts into this area as well, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
We look forward to it.
Great.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's been a pleasure.
Brilliant.
It's been really interesting to talk to you and to understand your work, your research, your passion. It's been great. So thank you for all of that. And good luck with the research.
Thank you.
This has been the Cardiff Business School podcast, and we've been exploring public value in a discussion with Amy Boote. And frankly, enjoying her insights and her expertise and her enthusiasm for understanding the importance of all the workers within the entire supply chain of the fashion industry and how that might be improved in the future. And I think it's a great example of translating public value into action-orientated research that really seeks to make a difference to the world around us.